My name is Dr. Terence Lester, and I'm the founder and executive director of Love Beyond Walls. I think the creation of Love Beyond Walls comes kind of like in a twofold type of narrative. One, there is my personal story. Um, Early in my life, I had experiences with homelessness as early as 16 years old. And that really impacted me. It impacted me because here it is, I'm in high school, I'm going to school, and a lot of educators labeled me or mislabeled me without actually knowing the social location that I was emerging from and all of the pressures stemming from that. I overcame a lot of those challenges, and I had a friend who had a father who was also a mentor to me that would pull me aside and talk to me about my potential and how once I overcame the struggles that I was facing early on, that I would be able to use my story in some way to make an impact. I didn't know how that would actually flesh out, but I never forget those conversations. And over the years, it kind of morphed into me getting more education and understanding not only the systemic impacts of the subject of homelessness, but also how that impacts a person's sense of self worth, how it causes someone to feel invisible, unseen, unheard. And so, out of that part of it, I started to really grow a passion for what does it look like for everyday people who are faced with poverty and or homelessness. How is that actually showing up in their lives and impacting their ability not to understand their own sense of self-worth, but also feeling unseen, unheard, invisible? And I wanted to do something about that. I wanted to not only make people aware of how stigma causes harm, but I also wanted to move and mobilize people to take love, what I would consider beyond walls, to engage with community members who do feel invisible and unseen. And it's been beautiful.
So can you tell me about the nonprofit?
So our nonprofit organization does a number of things. Um, we have a center that's lodged in the city of Atlanta, kind of like less than a few miles away from the airport. And on any given day, you could have people who are experiencing homelessness coming to access showers, um, to have access to hand washing stations, to have access to be able to do laundry or get grooming and support services. There are times when we are building intentional relationships with individuals and providing housing to help them to navigate and overcome the plight of homelessness. There are times when volunteers are visiting our center to tour the Dignity Museum, which is the museum that represents the subject of homelessness and in many respects has become the first museum in the US to do that. There are times when family members or families are coming to our offices to support children who need access to resources or families who need access to food resources or technology. And so, like, all of this happens in a space that we call the Love Beyond Walls headquarters. And it's really all been about being able to use the vehicles of providing these tangible resources to build relationships with individuals, to have support in community. And we've been going now for almost a decade, and
Oh,
we've been able to, yeah, we've been able to mobilize, over 10,000 volunteers. We've helped to get a little over 500 people off of the streets. We reunited people with family members that they have been out of touch with. We've helped people reclaim their identification cards when it was hard to do so. I mean, just a number of things. And so I like to say we're just a community that loves to crowd love those who have been invisible.
Yeah, how does it feel for you to have a positive impact in people's lives?
I really struggle with thinking that I am having a positive impact, and I'll tell you why. One of the reasons is because I never thought that I would be in a place where I would be able to make an impact. It wasn't ever like a goal. It wasn't like a to do on a to do list, or leadership or servant leadership was never on my radar. And so I think to hear those words is very humbling because I was the one who was in need of the love, to be seen, to be heard, right? And so I get really emotional thinking about how far I've come, and then having that same ability to serve others is just deeply humbling. There are times when I've heard students or community members, you know, respond and say they're really grateful, and it makes the journey that I've been on personally worthwhile. And I'm hoping that I can continue to become an example for other people in what it really means to truly serve and see your neighbor as yourself, and lend a helping hand.
So when I was researching you, I saw that you have written several books. Congrats, by the way, for that. But is that getting your thoughts and all that down? Is it therapeutic for you?
I love writing, and I would attribute writing to one of the vehicles that has been really cathartic for me in my own sense of self work and inner work. Um, but in terms of writing for the type of work that I'm engaged in, I'm hoping that that creates pathways for others to think about how to engage community, how to see their neighbors in healthy ways, and how to embody empathy and belonging. And I guess I'm writing now to create something that will outlive me. It's kind of legacy work. So, yeah, I would say, man, it's very cathartic and it's therapeutic. And I'm hoping that my works, uh, you know, long after I'm gone, is also therapeutic for others.
Yeah, you said empathy, and I think a lot of people, if they use more empathy, you know, it'd be better. People would relate more. But for you, how important is it using empathy around?
Yeah. Yeah. I see empathy as a strength. Uh, I have a friend that wrote a book, and I think one of the quotes in the book was that empathy is one of the only virtues that is strong enough to handle the complexities of our day. And when you think about that, that is a very powerful statement because empathy helps us to see other people, but it also moves us to action. Um, it helps us to take action against whether it be injustice or social ills, or just to be able to have that inner passion to stand in solidarity with those who are struggling in ways that we may not be. I think empathy is also important because you know, it helps one to see a part of like their humanity, or your humanity wrapped up in someone else's humanity, right? That what I do for you, I'm also doing for myself. And I think this is what ML King was getting at when he spoke of the beloved community, or the world house, seeing the world as our address. He gave this sermon, um, where he's talking about you can't even wake up in the morning without having a global experience. Like where did you get your coffee from? Where did you get the mug from? Where did the decor in your house come from? Just kind of like orienting our mind to realize that we're all interdependent, interrelated, and interconnected. And I think that is at the core of what it means to be empathetic, to see a part of yourself in your neighbor.
I saw your bio on your website. You talk about your wife and kids. What have you learned from them?
My wife and my children have been a huge support system. And it's not just the work that I do, it's the work that we do as a family. I also think that, you know, that service has become a rhythm of our family structure, and it's not something that we do as like a hobby. It's a part of who we are. And man, I learned so much from my daughter and my son and my wife. And I think the greatest lesson is community, unconditional love, and also strength and support. Yeah.
Where do you want to see the organization in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping, praying that we are able to be in a place where we're leading the educational charge, so to speak. I think there is many different wonderful organizations in the world, but I think we have come through some severe times that warrants, relearning how to love your neighbor, how to be in community with others, how not to be in your own little world or bubble,
Yeah.
but also to practice proximity. But like, what does that really look like in understanding a social location that your neighbor emerges from? And, I think we have an educational gap that is causing apathy as it relates to homelessness and poverty. And so like I'm hoping that Love Beyond Walls can be a part of filling that gap, to bridge the gap between what does it mean to offer direct services and actual support, but to fill in the why, right? Why is this important? Why should we deconstruct stigma? Why should we have a reframing around the narratives that surrounds this subject?